Welcome charter board members and school leaders. The topic of this mini-course is looking out for conflicts of interest. A conflict of interest is a situation where an individual has a personal or financial interest that compromises or could compromise their independence of judgment in fulfilling their duties. A real or perceived conflict of interest can result in challenges to a board decision made or action taken and erode trust in the board governance. Would you like to review the law and gain ideas for recognizing and preventing conflicts of interest? Would you like resources shared by another charter school? This mini-course may help you. In this mini-course, you will review the law, gain ideas, test your knowledge, and receive a certificate of completion. When reviewing the law and ideas, think about how you can help the board recognize conflicts of interest and prevent them from causing problems. Let's start by reviewing the law. Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.07 sets limits on board membership to prevent conflicts of interest. Before entering into a contract or other agreement for professional or other services, goods, or facilities, the board of directors must be established. The initial board must be composed of at least 5 members, and the initial members must not be related parties. The ongoing charter school board of directors must be elected before the school completes its second year of operation. The ongoing board shall also have at least 5 members, and must also not be related parties. According to the statute, related party means an affiliate or immediate relative. An affiliate is an individual or entity that directly or indirectly, through one or more intermediaries, controls, is controlled by, or is under common control with another individual or entity. Control means the ability to affect the management operations or policy actions or decisions of a person, whether by owning voting securities, by contract, or otherwise. Immediate relative is also defined in the statutes. It means any relationship by blood, marriage, adoption, or partnership of spouses, parents, grandparents, siblings, children, first cousins, aunts, uncles, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews. Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.07 further restricts board membership to prevent conflicts of interest. The board must adopt a nepotism policy that prohibits the employment of immediate family members of a board member, a school employee, or a teacher. The board may waive this policy if the position is publicly posted for 20 business days and a 2/3 majority of the remaining board of directors who are not immediate family members of an applicant vote to approve the hiring. A board member, school employee, or teacher under contract with a cooperative must not be involved in an interview, selection process, hiring, supervision, or evaluation of an immediate family member. No charter school employees shall serve on the board other than teachers who meet membership criteria specified in the statutes. The chief administrator may only serve as an ex officio, non-voting board member. An individual is prohibited from serving as a board member if an immediate family member is an employee of the school. Furthermore, Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.07 prohibits an individual from serving as a board member if the individual is in any of the following situations. The individual, their immediate family member, or their partner is a full or part owner or principal or independent contractor with a for or nonprofit entity with whom the school contracts. According to Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.07, a violation renders a contract voidable at the option of the commissioner or the charter school board of directors. A member of a charter school board of directors who violates these conflict of interest provisions is individually liable to the charter school for any damage caused by the violation. Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.10 requires a disclosure to the Commissioner related to the school's authorizer. A school must disclose any potential contract, lease, or purchase of service from the school's authorizer or current board member, employee, contractor, volunteer, or agent of the authorizer. Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.14 further defines conflicts of interest. A conflict exists for an individual if an immediate family member, partner, or organization that employs them has a financial or other interest in the entity with which the school is contracting. No board member, employee, officer, or agent of the school shall participate in selecting, awarding, or administering a contract if a conflict of interest exists. A violation of the laws prohibiting conflicts of interest renders the contract void. Furthermore, Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.14 states that no charter school employee or board member may serve on the board or decision-making committee of the school's authorizer. An employee or school board member must disclose to the school's board of directors any paid compensation they receive from the school's authorizer. Minnesota Statutes Section 124E.26 requires that prior to the expenditure of any state funds, a charter school must adopt a procurement policy. The procurement policy must include a conflict of interest provision and thresholds for purchases by employees without board approval. It must also include thresholds for purchases that require competitive bidding processes, except that a competitive bidding process must occur for any procurement estimated to exceed $25,000. It must also include a prohibition on breaking up procurement into smaller components to avoid the thresholds. If a charter school makes a purchase without a procurement policy or not in conformity with the policy, the Commissioner may reduce the school's state aid in an amount equal to the purchase. To summarize, what limitations do Minnesota statutes place on board membership to prevent conflicts of interest? Board members must not be related parties, defined as affiliates and immediate relatives. Affiliates and immediate relatives are further defined in Minnesota statutes. Teachers who meet membership criteria are the only employees who can serve on the board. The chief administrator may only serve as an ex officio non-voting board member. An individual with an immediate family member who is an employee of the school cannot serve on the board. A contractor that provides facilities, goods, or services to a charter school cannot serve on the board. An individual who is full or part owner or principal with a for or nonprofit entity with whom the school contracts, directly or indirectly for services, goods, or facilities, cannot serve on the board. An individual whose immediate family member or partner is a full or part owner or principal with a for or nonprofit entity with whom the school contracts cannot serve on the board. If the school contracts with anyone that works or volunteers for the school's authorizer, the agreement must be disclosed to the Commissioner. Charter schools must have a conflict of interest policy and a procurement policy which, if not followed, may result in a reduction in state aid. Consequences of violations include voiding a contract or even holding a charter board member individually liable to the school for any damages caused by their violation. What are some ideas that may help the charter board prevent and recognize conflicts of interest? Review the statutes regarding conflicts of interest, including the definitions for related party, affiliate, control, and immediate family, and verify that no conflicts of interests exist. Require board candidates to sign an assurance that they have read the law and that they have no real, perceived, or potential conflict of interest preventing them from serving on the board. Develop a conflict of interest policy that includes references to relevant statutes that board members and others can easily access. Include the conflict of interest policy in a policy review cycle so that the board members review it annually. Take affirmative action to avoid, minimize, or mitigate the impacts of actual, potential, or perceived conflicts of interest to avoid damage to reputation and betrayal of public trust. Include a board member check for any real or perceived conflict of interest with any agenda item at the beginning of each board meeting. Following are questions that you may want to ask to help prevent conflicts of interest. Does the school have a conflict of interest policy that requires prompt disclosure of any real, perceived, or potential conflict of interest? How and when is the conflict of interest policy shared with current and candidate board members, staff, administration, vendors, and independent contractors? What is the school's procurement policy, and is the school following the policy when making purchases? How and when does the board examine board membership to check for and prevent conflicts of interest, and what is the most effective way to do so? Now that you have reviewed the law, learned ideas from other charter boards, and considered questions, let's look at how you can help support success. By understanding who can and who cannot serve on the charter school board, you can help recognize and prevent conflicts of interest. By understanding the definitions from Minnesota statutes that pertain to conflicts of interest, you can help recognize real, perceived, and potential conflicts of interest. In conclusion, here are some potential next steps. Verify that policies and procedures are in place to help board members determine whether a conflict of interest exists, and if so, what action to take. Use the Conflict of Interest checklist in the Minnesota Legal Compliance Audit Guide published periodically by the Office of State Auditor to verify compliance. Read the guidance on conflict of interest for authorizers and charter schools published by the Minnesota Department of Education. Incorporate a check for conflicts of interest at the beginning of each board meeting and with board member candidates. Take care to follow the school's conflict of interest and procurement policies and procedures, and document evidence of proper procurement in board meeting minutes. Disclose any real, perceived, or potential conflict of interest in accordance with school policy and the law. Compare and contrast your board's conflict of interest policy with those from other charter schools to gain and share ideas. Contribute your ideas and tools for recognizing and preventing conflicts of interest. Information in this video is not intended to address specific questions or issues a particular school may be facing. Charter schools should work with their authorizer, auditor, financial service provider, lawyer, and advisors to address any specific issues. We hope this information is helpful in recognizing and preventing conflicts of interest.